August. Okay, so the presentation is in two parts. First I'm going to talk about Kenya. Now, this is the next stage of performance-based contracting. So you're going from your traditional maintenance management, asset management, start to use performance-based contracting, and then you start to look at longer performance-based contracts, but using project finance. Then I'm going to talk about my experience in Scotland, which is coming from the point you're at and having to implement RAMS, having to implement and the problems we face. So it's more from a contractor's point of view, from the other side of the equation. So Kenya. Kenya is in Africa, and unfortunately Americans don't even know where Africa was. So it's quite a large country. Independence just over 50 years ago, and at that time there was only 2,000 kilometres of paved road. They've now increased that to just over 14,000. But it's a vast infrastructure gap. It's about $500 million a year. When the current government came in, what's called the Jubilee government, its manifesto promised that they would provide an additional 10,000 kilometres of surface road in Kenya. Fair enough. But the problems. 3 road agencies, they know where they are now, but they're having a devolution agenda, and they want to devolve the power to the districts, the regions and the districts. So the 3 roads authorities don't know their future, but they're having to implement long-term asset management planning. There's no maintenance standards. The emphasis is on projects. Let's not do maintenance, but let's do the projects to reconstruct the road. Now, you'll see, a lot of this should ring with you about what happens here in Pakistan. What I've seen is no different. Outturn costs are 50% higher than the engineer's estimate, and it was so bad that each year they would budget on the engineer's estimates, they put out the number of contracts to use up all the budget to find out the budget's overrun by 50%. Each project's overrun by 50%. So half the projects they wouldn't pay for this year and delayed the payment until next year. The next year they did the same thing until now there's a 6-year backlog in paying contractors. So contractors are already priced in the cost of borrowing for 6 years in each of the bids. Overloading is endemic, and you can't control it, because you find that the haulage companies are almost operated mafia style. And the owners are the police, the politicians. So there's no willingness to deal with the problem. And corruption is a major problem. And the main problem, or the main area of corruption, is in contract supervision. That's why they like their projects. For projects, there's an opportunity to get the 30 and 40% cuts to look the other way. And it goes on all the time. It's so bad in Kenya. And we reckon that 90% of the money is wasted in a combination of corruption and unavoidable reconstruction. And they're saying to me, we don't have enough money for road maintenance. And I'm saying, well, you actually do. If you did proactive maintenance and stop these projects, the need for the reconstruction projects, you can provide a good level of service across the whole network. So, we looked at, luckily in Kenya, we had 2 sets of data, 5 years apart, a few years ago. So we're able to look at what the asset value was, asset condition asset value was on the first year, and then look at it what it was in the fourth year and put a trend. And what became obvious, that because they're not doing maintenance, the asset was decaying at 6% per year. I remember saying yesterday, the World Bank says you can link 1% to 1% investment in infrastructure to growth to GDP. So by the time you add in the cost of that 6% per year, plus the 6% lack of growth in GDP, the economic cost to Kenya of not doing road maintenance was 270 billion shillings a year, and 1 shilling is about 1 rupee. So it's a vast amount of money being wasted. Public debt was 55%. So whilst the Jubilee Manifesto said we want to create 10,000 new roads, Kenyan government could not borrow money. IMF would not allow it to borrow any more money. So how are we going to reconstruct 10,000 kilometres road and with no council funds? They tried raising Eurobonds to raise cash, but they had to use that money to pay off debts. So any work, if we were going to do it, it has to be off balance sheet. In other words, it has to be PPP. They have got OPRC or performance-based contracts. And one of the things we did in creating a PPP Act was get around the issue that someone else raised here about multi-year contracts. Procurement law in Kenya says you must not have multi-year contracts. So we put the OPRC or the performance-based contracting inside the PPP Act. So the PPP Act covers concessions, PPPs, and performance-based contracts, and it has no limits on multi-year contracts. So it's not done under the Procurement Act, it has to be done under the PPP Act, and because it's under the PPP Act, there's a certain rigorous process that the projects have to go through to ensure that the value for money is properly transferred. So it was called the Kenya Roads Annuity PPP Programme. Forget about the word annuity, it's something that we were handed with, it means nothing. 10,000 kilometres of surface road, sorry, these are the objectives. 10,000 kilometres of surface road over 3 years. Then the politicians got involved. They wanted an equal amount of road and an equal amount of money spent in each province each year. So we ended up with 4,000 kilometres being done each year, split into something like 30 lots, each tender as a PPP separately. 10-year contracts. We wanted 17 to 20-year contracts, but the Treasury in Kenya felt that the local banking market wasn't used to lending money more than 10 years. The Procurement Act had to be followed, the open tender, and the majority of this was passed. So, reconstruction. These are the objectives we wanted out of the project. Implementation affordable and sustainable. In other words, we get the roads into a state where we can easily invest to match depreciation. Proactive management of overloading. We actually passed the overloading problem on to the contractors. And as I think Ian said earlier, it's not difficult. You tell what the amount of overloading is and the price point. Policy flexibility. Policy flexibility to meet changing demands of the highway, long-term value for money, saving matches, reduction of crimes, claims against them. And the subtext was the government wanted to remove all the opportunities for corrupt practices. And that was why it went down PPP, because PPP there is no supervision, it's self-supervised. So, but there are other issues. Policy flexibility, political control, the politicians wanted to be involved in everything. Strategic dominance, so what they were scared of, the local market was scared of, are the international contractors coming in and taking over. But you have to remind them, there are no international contractors out there sitting with 10,000 staff doing nothing. They wouldn't be in business. What you tend to find with international contractors, they bring in a management unit and then they manage the local supply chain to deliver the project. And that's actually more work for the local industry than what they were seeing. long-term commitment. Now that can be good or bad, depending how well you get on with your contractor. Value for money, corporate governance, institutional weaknesses. There's no capacity inside the Kenyan government to do PPP, capacity of local markets. So you've got to think of, well, what is the local market, what can it do? You can't have a big programme if you don't have enough quarries in the country to produce stone or bitumen. Or there are not enough contractors around. And because they were maintenance contracts, one of the first things we found, and you'll find this here, once the contractors try to tie up with consultants to deliver PBC contracts, consultants are used to design. What consultants do you know that have got any maintenance experience? Or engineers that can do maintenance? There isn't. The amount of money in the local market isn't almost as much as what we think. Corruption and political interference. Now, some of this is basic rule, but it sets the context for how we design the contract. You saw this yesterday. This is your typical asset decay curve. 25 and 75% life, it's dropped 40% quality, value, another 12% 2 years on that time life, it's dropped another 40%. But what costs you 1 shilling here or 1 rupee here, costs you 5 there. That's the norm. In Kenya, it's 1 to 500 or 1 to 5,000 rather than 1 to 5. If you look at it on a different scale, traditionally, you let it decay 20%, you reinvest, and let it decay 20%. But most roads authorities let the roads decay to the point of failure, and because it's a 1 to 5 ratio, they try to invest the same amount of money as the top half, the recovery is only a fifth, so it's a never decreasing circle. And what this shows is to move to steady state, you need to change not only the way you procure, but how you deliver maintenance. It's a total change. Just throwing money at it doesn't help. And the problem's compounded. Pakistan, in most countries, you work on cash accounting. This is your typical cost curves for looking after road, high construction, maintenance increasing, your periodic maintenance increasing, and so on. But your budget is usually about there. So how, in your cash accounting terms, can you deal with the needs of the asset? You can't. So you just delay and delay and delay and catch up and go on. Now, PPP and performance-based contracting is about delivering a level of service. So you've got to decide what your level of service is. So, and this is a question for you. Do you want that? And that's not Pakistan. Or do you want that? Who wants what? Who wants the first? No, and who wants the second? Somebody's brave enough to say that that's what we like. That's what I have when in my office in the UK. But neither is true. The first one is unacceptable. The second one is unaffordable. You have to find something in between. So, how do you determine the level of service? First of all, you've got to have a mechanism. And what we did, we take 3 factors. There are 3 project objectives. One is about asset management, one is about safety, and one is about the visual condition. These are all measurable. So we take, for example, if you look, you see PCI, Pavement Condition Index. We take a pavement strength and we divide it into 6 bands, from excellent down to failed. Then we look at skid resistance, accidents. There's a relationship between wet weather accidents and skidding. So we do scrim as a normal survey that we do. Again, we divide it into 6 bands, excellent down to failed. SAI surface condition, we do visual surveys every year that picks up potholes, trips and all the rest of it, and scope it. So now we have 3 things, we add them together to get the pavement, the network condition index, which is the NCI, going from 30 down to 0.6. It's not linear, it's a curve. And the important thing is, it doesn't matter whether you agree with the philosophy or not, as long as you do it the same way every year. Because going back to what I said yesterday, you're looking for a trend. Is the market, is the NCI decreasing year on year? Is it going up or is it level? As long as you measure exactly the same thing every year, you can see the trend. So this is our proxy to the level of service. So now we've got to decide what's the level of service we want. So we looked at 3 funding streams. We looked at the capital costs of building a project. We looked at the maintenance costs of running the project, but we also looked at the user costs, the cost of delay, the cost of pollution, the cost of accidents. For example, in the UK, we know that every fatal accident in the road network has an economic cost of 1.5 million. So we can look at the cost of serious accidents, and we can build up all these costs. So if we look at capital costs, as you'd expect, so what we're trying to do is look at the cost of keeping the road in any of these 6 bands from excellent to fail. So capital cost, excellent condition, poor conditions because we haven't spent any capital. Maintenance cost the opposite way. We've just spent a lot on capital, it's new, requires little maintenance. We haven't spent any capital, the roads in poor condition, it requires higher maintenance. The user costs, high capital spend, good condition, few maintenance. User costs are low because IRI is low, delays are low because there's no roadworks, accidents are low as well. But no capital, poor condition, maintenance works going on, therefore delays, therefore cost, pollution, and probably accidents. If we add them together, we get a curve. And the de minimis is what we call the target level of service. It's the optimum between spending capital money in the network, cost of maintenance, and the cost of having the assets. And that becomes contractually our level of service. So now we talk about specification. What is the specification? It's a methodology to deliver the project objectives. Now, one of the first things you do with any project is develop your project objectives. And it's usually the most difficult thing is to get the client to sit down and agree to 6 or 8 project objectives. Because your payment mechanism, the specification, the contract documents, all should be designed to deliver the project objectives. It's your reference point for it. But it also should bring certainty to the level of service. So, for Kenya, we have a major specification. No road section length shall have a residual life be less than 8 years. No road section length should have an IIA greater than 8. All bridges capable of carrying 40 units of HV loading, and the NCAI shall not be less than 18.6. That's it. That's the major specification. And these are all really measured. Then we have a minor specification. No potholes, no trips, no dark lamps, no puddles, accidents. The road after accidents open within 30 minutes of being released by the appropriate authority and 1 hour. You might say, not having potholes is impossible because every road will have a pothole. But the level of service contracts are not about the fact that the pothole is there or the lights not working or there's a flood. It's about how quickly you respond to it. And we did a survey in the UK asking the public how they measured the success of our roads authority. And we were surprised at the time, this was 20 years ago. It's not whether or not the assets in good condition. What they were more concerned about, we told you a year ago there was a problem and it's still not fixed. So their judgment was a good or bad highway authority was based on how you responded to knowledge. You can have all the money in the world and sort it, and be rubbish in the public, which you're not responding to any of the requests. So, we developed a specification for this, and you could do it in half a page. But by the time the lawyers come in and ask you, what if this, and what if that, what if this, and something. So you have to deal with, these are some of the buddies, but the what ifs. Who is responsible for this if you've got a performance-based contract whether or not it's being paid? Who's responsible for that? These are funnies, but they're actually reality. Because when you design your performance-based contracts, your PPPs, you must be imaginative and look at all the things that could possibly happen and deal with it either in payment mechanism, the output specification, or the contract document. If you don't, you've lost certainty of price because these are really claims. So you might as well deal with it now, deal with the contract, set it's going to effective price, but then you can budget for that. You know what you're budgeting for. You cannot budget for uncertainties. So, moving on, there are we divided the specification into 3 performance standards. One for the construction rehabilitation period. So that these are all called brownfield sites. As existing roads, we need to widen them and resurface them, gravel roads at the moment. So performance 1 is entirely about typical PBC type role. Performance standard 2 is post-construction. So that's forcing them to look after the asset structural health for the length of the contract. Performance standard 3 is looking at operation and maintenance service delivery. And each performance standard is divided up into required outcomes. So that's the objectives. They're not contractually binding, but in a court of arbitration, the court would look at it as to intent. Then the service delivery outputs and the required service levels. So we look at quickly examples of what these might look like. PS1, construction rehabilitation of roads. It lists all the things that we're responsible for, the design. All design shall be in accordance with the Roads Design Manual, and so on. And this one shows how they're paid for it. Now, we'll talk about the payment mechanism later on. But what we gave, because each lot comprised a number of roads, not just one length of road, it might be 5 or 6 roads, quite separate apart. So we had to give them benchmarks on each road, certain percentages complete at a certain time for all the different roads. So we did that in Matrix 4. Post-asset condition, no road section lengths or residual life of less than 8 years and so on. You've seen all of that. And again, what we're doing, the way we present this is the specification has a direct link to the payment mechanism. So you might not be able to read it. You look at the first column, you've got the defect, the residual life, and then the service level requirement, no road section length should have a residual life of less than 8 years. Rectification period is 3 months. So once they find it, they've got 3 months to sort it. We also have what's called a moratorium. And you need to consider this when you're doing your PBC contracts. You can't expect a contractor to come in one day and then overnight he's sorted everything. He's going to inherit an asset that may not be in the best condition. You've got to give him time to sort things out. Now, all the moratorium means in contractual jargon is that he will not, even though the defect hasn't been sorted, he will not suffer any deductions because of it. So he's relieved from penalty during the 3 months, during the moratorium period. But after that, he will be hit. And then there's a performance deduction category. That's the direct link to the payment mechanism. And so that PS has 4 lines, one before that. It's a bit more complex than number of rows, but it's very simple. Then operational maintenance standards, and I won't go through that, just sets out all the 24 hours to repair. And just to follow on what some of the other speakers said about not repairing things they repair things in 24 hours. If you set the contract right, that's not necessarily true, because what we've set in this contract is they must do a weekly asset integrity and safety inspection. And then the log it. That's the official log of when a pothole happens. And if a contractor, how he manages that, he does a survey one day and sends a road crew to fix on the same route the next day. So it's manageable. It's not at any time. He has a specified time. If the pothole appears in between services, he does it in 24 hours unless he's been told about it. So that's trying to be fair to the contractor. So the operational maintenance is exactly the same format, what the defect is, what the obligations are, what the required fixed time is, whether or not it's moratoria, and the link to the payment mechanism. So the payment mechanism, what is a payment mechanism? Well, it brings certainty to the cost of providing a specified level of service. And one of the things that I always advise, and I also do this in performance-based, any form of performance-based contracting, whether it's traditional or whether it's PBC, there should be no such thing as a bonus. There are 2 reasons. The minute you bring in bonus, you bring in the potential for corrupt practices. Secondly was, and this comes from a client's point of view, how can I budget for bonus? If I had the money for the greater level of service, I would have specified it in the first place. I know I specified this because that's all I can afford, and I can't afford to bonus anything. So it's easy to keep it out. One of the principles of a payment mechanism, doesn't matter how a form of contract is, it should be designed to give strong incentives to deliver project objectives, which should be based on a level of service provision. So it's strong incentives. It should not be a penalty, it should not be punitive. And in most contractual environments, the deduction you make, whether you call it a penalty or not, should reflect the cost to you. If it hasn't fixed a pothole in 24 hours or other time, you can't hammer on with £1,000,000 rupee fine. It only costs you as a department when it's fair 10 rupees to go out and fix it. You would never win any court case, almost in any international court on that basis. So the deduction of the penalty must reflect the cost to the local authority if in the failure of the contractor, the local authority to make arrangements to get it fixed. That's what's deemed to be reasonable. And you also need to look at the level of deductions. Now, the standard way of doing this is you take a reasonable contractor acting normally. What level of deductions should you be able to expect? And normally you put that somewhere between 8 and 10% is monthly or is his annual fee. It should never be more than that, otherwise it's too aggressive. If it's lower than that, it's not enough incentive. So in Kenya, how it works diagrammatically. So the ramp up bit, you see the bit with the steps, is the construction period. So he gets money released to him, or part of his annual amount released to him as he completes the milestones. Now what he's bidding for, he bids to reconstruct and maintain a section of road for 10 years for X amount of rupees each year. So it's a fixed sum each year, but during the construction period, he doesn't get it all until the milestones have been met. But because the brownfield site's in operation, performance standard 3 deductions are made, he doesn't comply with them. And then once he's got it into all resurfaced, you just get performance deductions. It's as simple as that. But does anyone believe contractors will submit something, and then once they get the contract, everything changes? So what we did, what we've always done, is we asked the contractor its technical submission and method statements. Because any contractor can write a technical submission saying, I will do this and I will do that. Quite right you do, because that's what the contract says you must do. There's no point repeating in good English or good language, whatever, what the contract already tells you. So what we want to know in the method statement is how you're going to do it, what your process is, what's your decision making. And by the way, if you're the winning contractor, we're going to bind your method statement into the contract. So it becomes contractual enforceable. You promised you would do this, why are you not doing it? And going on what others have said, performance-based contracts, everything must be measurable. But there are some aspects of road maintenance that are not measurable. And if I give you an example, quite often I see we've got to provide a room shall be painted in a nice colour. How can you judge whether a room is painted in a nice colour? What's nice to me is not nice to you, so you drop it. Things like vegetation, flower beds, you can't specify it, so don't have it in the specification. But what you can ask them, tell us how you're going to do, how you're going to measure your progress in ground maintenance, for example, in the method statement. And if we like that, then that's how you'll do it. So the method statement becomes their input to the contract. So there were 7 method statements: mobilisation, design, construction, rehabilitation, operation, maintenance, plant, equipment, materials, health and safety, quality management, and demobilisation, transfer. And the rules for the method statements are: there should be no sales pitch, there must be clear defined terms, so it's we will, not we may, so it's all definite terms that you can hold them to. Who are the decision makers? If you go to use innovation, describe the process, describe the system, and you do this for every line of the performance specification. And as part of that, you provide a service delivery statement and programs and plans. So everything is covered. But we also ask each contractor to put in a RAMS system, and that RAMS system must connect to the Central Kenya system. And all reports, the results of all surveys, which are done weekly, they'll specify the day in which they do it, might be a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever day. Then 2 hours back at depot, they must have downloaded their files into the RAMS system, and the client can exit, come through a back door into the system and audit. All record drawings, all service inspections, all condition surveys, everything is kept electronically. So that was Kenya. Now the next 10 minutes we'll look at Scotland. Okay, so Scotland, and that's a picture of those that don't know what it looks like. 3,000 odd kilometres of road and an annual budget of 40 billion in Pakistani rupees. Now, from 1936 to 1995, all roads in Scotland were looked after by 32 local authorities, and I worked for one of these. And we worked on a force account basis. We were client, and we had a road direct labour organisation, and we had what we call Section 8, main out the areas looked after the day-to-day maintenance of discrete lanes. Then in 1984, the government brought in the Planning and Land Act. It was getting concerned about the costs of running roads authority or government, particularly those departments. Under the Planning and Land Act, that made us prove that we're providing value for money, and something like 30% of our work to do the design work in schemes, or even to do the build work, our DLO or the client had to bid against the private sector. So slowly they introduced competition into local government services. Suddenly we were no longer just government, we were government and the contractor bidding against the private sector. Then in 1996, they took the whole trunk of the network away from government and put it out to tender. And they formed 5 all-purpose units and 3 premium units. The all-purpose units the competitive part, the performance part was the client function. The road support, the local government still provided the labour. But the premium units, the private sector provided design, all roles. And I managed one of these units because as a government, we actually formed a consortium of local government, we actually feed the private sector and bid for it. So that's what it looked like. So we had the Scottish officers' clients, we were the operating company, but discrete major schemes were tendered as normal. We just had a role to design them and supervise them. Then we did the performance audit group. The scope of what we had to do was everything inside the road corridor. It's what we call a street scheme. So everything fence to fence, everything within your boundaries fell on us to do. So we were design and engineer, we did the routine and cyclic maintenance, network management, structural maintenance, winter, emergency, bridges, inspection, and we were the client's origin. So we designed all schemes. We had to get estimates within 3% of the outturn costs. If our estimates were wrong, we were penalised the difference. Routine and cyclic maintenance, some performance-based contract, no potholes, no safety defects, no standing water. All the same as you see in a PBC contract. Traffic counting, accident analysis, claims management, traffic signal control. We had to do it all. Structural maintenance, identification schemes, winter maintenance, emergency response within 1 hour, we'd say within 2. Then we had to wait for the client to make a decision about how he wanted to deal with it. Bridges and structures, all inspections, all temporary repairs. We had to do safety inspections, inventory, traffic counts, bridge inspections. The important thing was we weren't supervised. We had to be self-supervised. We had to have a quality system without control. Now, you might say allowing contractors to do their own thing before their own thing is dangerous. But what I learned, we had what's called a performance audit group, who could appear at any time without notice, want to see your financial records, your technical records, your quality assurance records, they want to go outside and see the works. And if anything was wrong, you got fined. And the fine was £10,000. You soon learned after 1 or 2 times, the only way to do everything was to do everything right all the time. It's a very powerful tool. We also had to put in a RAMS system. So there was no RAMS before that. It was completely new, so we worked with the Scottish Office to develop the whole concept and then put it in. Then we'd have a quality management system, all decisions, we had to record everything. Payment mechanism for all these roles. So for the design and engineer role, we got a percentage fee about points, but we had to have that, our estimates within 3% of getting the difference. Routine and cyclic was a lump sum, network management was a lump sum. Structural maintenance, because of the uncertainties about what you had to do, was scheduled rates. Winter maintenance was a lump sum risk capping. So the snow period went on more than 3 or 4 days, then we had a scheduled rates. Emergency response, a lump sum for the first response, then a scheduled rates for the repair. Bridges and structures, inspection ones, all lump sum. So it's a mixture of lump sum, so performance-based contracting, and and a mixture of scheduled rates. And failure to meet anything 2 months in session was another reduction. With the performance audit group, as I said, we make random audits. The client's view after running the first few contracts for 3 years was it reduced costs by removing duplication. We start to look at things in a whole life analysis, single door approach, improved focus, efficient programming. Important thing is we reduced costs by 30%. We didn't do any less, we just reduced costs by 30%, so it provides value for money. So they decided rather than have 8 companies, they reduced it to 4, they split costs into a quarter, moved them to 7-year contracts, and that's the way it even is today. So some of the issues, so moving from the traditional time of contracting to performance contracting, they're difficult to bid because we have no experience in estimating the quantities of what might be needed on an asset that we didn't know. So you don't look at the work you have to do, you look at the resources you need to do the work. You know, will I need 50 men? Will I need how many rollers, how many this, how many that for the period of contract? You work out your prices from that basis. If you've got to do 10,000 potholes or 1,000 potholes, you still need the one guy. As long as you make contractual outputs, we have freedom. Freedom to innovate, freedom to organise and manage resources, and freedom to organise our work the way we suited us. But the problem was we soon discovered, whenever the client had a problem, we said, we've got a partnership, help me out, do something at no cost yourself. But then when you as a contractor has a problem, they said, oh, we've got a contract. So it's not exactly working in the spirit of partnership. And one of the things, that even with your PBC contracts, they say, once you sign up, it's a partnership, contracts you in a drawer. If you have to open that drawer to look at the contract, the partnership has failed. Some of the other lessons in the last few minutes, we had a risk register, we had to build up a risk register to be able to price it, but the client didn't. The client didn't acknowledge or even understand what was made by risk management. We had to think about the value of money. Now the difference between traditional contract and PPP and maybe longer term performance-based contracting is you're not talking about cash, you're talking about discounted money, you're talking about the value of money in the future. So timing of investment becomes critical. And this is why in asset management terms, inside a PPP, whether you're a high capital investment and a low maintenance, or a low capital and a high maintenance, neither is right or wrong. It purely depends on your commercial structure. Now, because contracts are awarded at the lowest net present value, you don't want high capital costs at the start. So what you want to do is specify the design that you can get away with and build at the start and have higher maintenance costs, because that means your end loading costs, which means you're taking greater recognition of discount. And you always find that once you go down to PPP, they'll want to not have high quality build. They'll want a lower quality build, still meet specification, and do more work later on. And it's because of the way you are assessing the contract. So if they've got a high quality build, they won't follow NPD, they won't win it. So contractors will take a risk on the timing. Not the doing, it's the timing. All these contracts are data heavy. You're asking the contractor to collect a lot of data on a regular basis. And everybody that's is encouraged to record things all the time. Communications room had to go on all the time. But because we're out in a rural area, GPS in these days was early, we had to develop a unique way of marking each defect. So you could explain, in the case of a court case, yes, it was definitely that defect I went to, not the one that's 5 metres away. Now, so People ask me what should be the length, minimum length of a PBC or a PPP contract. And I always say it has to be longer than the design now. Now, one of the reasons for that, PBC, any form of performance-based contracting requires a cultural change inside the contractor as well as inside the authorities. So the contractor has got to train his operatives, he's got to buy new plants. If you have 1-year contracts, how is he going to recover the costs and still win the bid? So you've got to give him enough time to recover his costs, his new plant, his training over 3, 4 or more years. Don't try to squeeze it into 1 or 2. You're just going to make the bids unaffordable to yourself. Proactive approach. You must make the decisions as a contractor and a PBC. You've got to make the decisions about what you're going to do years ahead. You can't wait for things to happen. You've got to plan ahead and be ready for it. So some of the lessons then. Kenyans doing the right thing. A lot. One good thing is they had an asset management problem. They couldn't spend capital, but using PPP to deliver asset management was the right thing. How they went about it left a lot to be desired. Project lengths were too short. And this goes for PBC as well. Look at your project length. Because whatever the project length is, the contractor will have a certain amount on it. Whether it's 5 kilometres, 50 kilometres or 500 kilometres, there are depots that are made. Now if you have it too short, that same overhead's there, but it's spread over a smaller quantity, therefore its rates are going to be a lot higher. So take advantage of economies of scale to make it as long as possible, say between 150 and 200 kilometres. Always longer than the life of the asset. If you've got a payment that's got a design line of 10 years, make it 12 years or 15. So that it becomes a timing risk rather than a due risk, and you don't get handed back something that needs you to invest money immediately. The other problem is the government must be able to give timeliness responses. Once you get into PPP or any form of project finance, you've got very expensive lawyers sitting in a room, and if they ask you a question, you can't say, well, I need to ask the president, and we'll get you back to you in 3 weeks. They will just walk. You have to delegate responsibility to the negotiating team to make decisions there and then. You want an answer there and then. Performance review must be sustainable and affordable. Method statements are invaluable. Because not only do they tell you, but it lets you understand, it lets you acknowledge that the contractor understands what he's got to deliver, and you understand what he's got to deliver. And method statements is a valuable tool to come across. Resistance from the client. And in many places, performance-based contracting, PPP has failed. I went to Indonesia to look at the reasons for failure in Indonesia. In Kenya there was resistance, and there'll be resistance here. And when you clear away all the mud, there is resistance to change. But the most pressing thing was that current practices, they thought once you move to performance-based contracting or PPP, there's no supervision, there's no opportunity to be on site, there's no opportunity to get payback. So the resistance to change was fear of loss of income. Outputs must be objective and measurable. The last one. More use of centralised RAMS systems. Also, the tender returns for your PBC contracts. Ask for method statements, ask for a financial model, and ask for a risk register. Because when it comes to claims, the risk register can be a valuable tool to say, you'd already identified this could be a claim. And by the way, I noticed you've mitigated against that by including the risk in your price. So always ask for the risk register. Stakeholder management is a critical element. Kenya is a bit like Pakistan. You have hostile environments. Kenya is very tribal. The rural areas are very tribal. Open warfare between the tribes. And they have their equivalent by IS, they have what's called Al-Shabaab, who are based in Ethiopia and Somalia, come across the border because Kenya is part of the African Peace Force. And I don't know whether you see the news here, but last year they walked into school and shot dead 400 children. You've got to make sure when you price the contracts, you've got to be absolutely sure who is taking the risk on security. Is the government going to provide security? Have a budget for it? Or is the contractor supposed to provide security there, but he must have the money in his budget? And that is a big ticket item. The cost of security in some of these projects is more than the project itself. Because it does mean the road is lined with troops while working for the whole period. Okay, thank you for your attention.
We have 2 more presentations to go, so if you allow, we can permit. If you permit, we can continue with the presentations, and in the meanwhile, if you have questions, you can reserve it for some time afterward. You can ask me. Presenter to answer these questions.
I request all the participants who have not signed the attendance sheet, they may sign the attendance sheet, because otherwise it will be difficult for us to issue the certificates to them. So, a very humble submission that please sign your attendance sheet. And now I will request General Manager, PPP National Highway Authority, he may come and present the concession agreement of Lahore Islamabad Motorway M2.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So my presentation will be comprising of 2 parts. The first part will cover about the National Highway Authority activities in public-private partnership and how we have structured the project, namely Lahore Islamabad Motorway. And the second part of the presentation should cover about the performance indicators and the performance specification of the project. So the National Highway Authority of Pakistan, the government of Pakistan, has a vision to substantially increase the road density in Pakistan, and the government has set a mammoth target for the development, and this is not possible without the support of the private sector. So that is one of the reasons that NHA has planned to undertake a major portion of the highway development and maintenance through the financing from the public-private partnership. And NHA is promoting the PPP in order to bring the skill, efficiency, and to augment the limited public resources. The NHA has been the PPP of the NHA is being supported by the legal framework. NHA has an act which clearly defines how they can do the PPP. And NHA has also devised a PPP policy which defines that what is the rule of the business, how the project has to be made, structured, and advertised, and do the procurement. And the NHA has created the biggest PPP regime I think in Pakistan. And the total network of NHA is about 13,000 kilometers, out of which the motorway network is about 2,300 kilometers, which includes the under-constructed or already constructed motorways also. And the PPP has taken up the motorway network of about 582 kilometers. This is already under implementation, and 300 kilometers of the motorway is under procurement, and another 231 kilometers has already been coming in the upcoming project. So about 50% of the motorway network of Pakistan is planned or under implementation through the public-private partnership. In terms of financial, the project which are under implementation on PBC by the NHA is about 137 billion, and another 274 billion projects are under procurement, advanced procurement stage, and it's another about 100 billion projects are upcoming. So coming back to my case study of Lahore-Islamabad motorway, which is M2. The M2 is 357 kilometers and it was planned as a 6-lane motorway. And this 6-lane motorway was completed in 1997 by Mr. Daegu of Korea. The construction cost of the project at that time was about $1 billion plus. And the project has completed its design life in the next 10 years, and NHA then planned in 2012 to do the overlay and organize the project, and accordingly they advertised the project and started the commencement in January 2015. NHA took a strategic decision to adopt a public sector financing for the M2 rehabilitation and improvement. The objective set for the project is to improve the ride quality, to modernize the motorway, free up the resources and generate additional revenue for the authority, and risk management in terms of the time overrun, the cost overrun, etc. This is a typical structure of the PPP project financing that has been adopted by the National Highway Authority. The concession period is 20-25 years, typically 20 to 25 years. Initially, the construction is done in 2-year time or 3-year time, and then after that, we have the operation and maintenance period, and during that operation period, we expect there is 2 overlays after like 10-year time. One in the middle of the project and one before the handover. And during that 25 years, the concession, whoever is the concession, has to do the debt servicing, and there is a post-debt servicing period also. So we have an overall project cost. Whoever is the concession is responsible for the design, construction, maintenance, operation of the project. So overall, we have a project cost. For that financing that project cost, we have something for the concessioner, which concessioner has to finance that project, and the second part is government either has to provide a subsidy to the project or they expect some sort of a revenue from the project. From the concessioner financing part, it could be the equity which the concessioner has to put from its own pocket, and the other part is he has to raise from the commercial loan financing. And the third part is, of course, the government either has to provide a subsidy to the project or they have to earn something from the project. This is a typical project cycle that the PPP used to adopt when we have to advertise the project internationally in the newspaper. Then we have to devise some request for proposal document and bid preparation. So we have standardized concession agreement, we have standardized the bidding documents also. Within that bidding document, we have specified what are the performance indicators and the performance specification. And these performance specifications shall be covered in the second part of the presentation by my colleague Dr. Asim. And after we receive the bids, then we have opening and evaluation of the bids. And once we have a successful bidder, we used to issue letter of intent or letter of support, whoever is the successful bidder. And then we have a process of negotiation and award. And after that negotiation award, we give like 6 months for the concessioner to do the detailed designing and do the financial close. And after doing the financial close, then he has to do the construction. and after doing the construction, we have the operation and maintenance period. For the case of Lahore-Islamabad motorway, these are the key features of the bid. We have set the concession period for 20 years. Within the 20 years, the concession has to do the construction. Construction means overlaying the rehab of the project for 3 years. The project cost was about 46 billion. And from that 46 billion, 30% the concession has to put from his own pocket, and the 70% he has to raise from the commercial bank. And we expected a great sum of money for the government also in this project. Then we have set the standard for the toll rate also, that what is the toll rate during the construction phase also and during the operation phase also. And also the toll escalation factors also. This is a typical profit and loss statement for the concessionaire. The total resource for the project is 541 billion, out of which in the 20 years, out of which about 121% he will spend on the operation and maintenance, and he will also provide a revenue share of about 200 billion to NHA also. Then it's a depreciation also that the government is also going to earn in terms of corporate tax also, and the concessionaire is supposed to earn a net profit of about 100 billion from the project. This is the typical risk matrix of the PBC, which we have adopted for the M2 project. Whereas the concessionaire shall be responsible for the cost overrun, and he is also responsible for the time overrun, and he will do the design and the construction also. He is responsible for the design risk also, for the construction risk also. And in case of the change in law, that is retained by the NHA or the government of Pakistan, and the concessionaire is responsible for the operation also. He is also taking up the operating risk also. In case of demand, that what should be the projected traffic that is going to come on the project, that is also retained by the concessionaire. The performance of the road, that is also retained by the maintenance and performance of the road, that is also transferred to the concessionaire. And the political risk, there is a nationalization of the project that is retained by the government, and also the force majeure risk that is also retained by the government. And the concession is also responsible for the upgradation and financial risk if any. This is the structure, typical structure that was adopted for the Lahore-Islamabad motorway. The FWO was the sponsor of the project, where he made a SPV, special purpose vehicle for this project, which is called MORE, and then they have a shareholder agreement. And with NHA, they are buying through a concession agreement and through loan agreement. So these are the banks which have provided about 26 billion rupees in this project. And this SPV, then they have a construction contract with the FWO, and then they have a subcontractors also. For the case of performance, we have this mechanism of joint auditor and quality assurance inspector, whereas the concessionaire has their own supervision and design consultant also. In terms of overall benefit of the project, the project is already in operation phase. The concession has completed the improvement of the project. They have done the overlay of the whole of the project. In terms of the benefit that have been reaped by the National Highway Authority, so the concession has done the rehabilitation and modernization of M2 at no additional cost to the government of Pakistan. The construction was done in half the time, and there was no cost overrun. There was no design, construction and performance risk to the client, and the government, the money that government has to put onto the project, they have freed up for the other centers also, like social and other things. And we have also got a financial benefit of 275 billion, out of which like 19 billion are upfront money, and then we have a revenue share of about 200 million rupees also. And for the next 20 years, NHA is free from the maintenance of the project, repair and maintenance of the project, and the concession has to hand back at the end of the concession year, which is 20 years, in a excellent condition. Now we can go to the second part of the presentation. I will ask Dr. Asim for the performance indicator used in this project.
I start the presentation, and we know that we are running short of time, so I will try to complete this presentation within 10 minutes. This presentation is in continuation of the GMPGP presentation, in which he covered the concept, structuring and the mode of the public-private partnership project. I will cover the performance indicators used in the public-private partnership project, Islamabad-Lahore Motorway M2. The Lahore-Islamabad Motorway project was, the construction of the Lahore-Islamabad Motorway was completed in November 1997, and after 18 years, the pavement design life expired, so there was a requirement of overlay. So the contract for the overlay and modernization of the Lahore-Islamabad Motorway on build, operate, transfer basis, rather you can say it's a rehab, operate, transfer basis, was commenced in January 2015. Now the timeline for the structuring of this project, after the signing of the concession agreement, the financial close period, which was 6 months, and the overlay and modernization phase for work for 3 years, and you can also call it the construction phase. So the total concession period is 20 years, out of which 16.5 years for O&M. Just discuss the salient feature that the most significant and the critical salient feature is overlay and modernization during construction phase. That modernization includes the intelligent transportation system, that the safety measure contains safety measures, traffic operation management, and the accident reduction management, etc. Secondly, the structures and existing project assets shall be inspected and defects shall be remedied. Service road fence and other features will be improved. Toll plazas and approved ancillary facilities will be provided. Efficiently operate and maintain the project asset. Finally, the landscaping and tree plantation for the environment-friendly highways. Now we coming to the types of specification, because going to the performance indicators, I think we need to understand, or we need to discuss this method specification, result specification, and the performance specification. The method specification, as the name tells, that is the procedure for the activity of highway construction. I just give an example from the construction side, that if there's an embankment, there are 35 tons of sheep wood roller. You can say that the thickness of the layer is 15 centimeter, minimum number of parts required 8. So that is the method statement. And in the result specification, that the contractor has the liberty to use its own method. And if I give an example of the result specification, so from the hot mix asphalt side, that the 97% of the GMP, that is the result. And you can also say that, for example, in the compaction, that the compaction shall be at least 95% for the subgrade for the maximum dry density. These are the result specifications. Finally, that is the performance specification, which is important for us, and here we are to discuss about the performance-based contracts. Performance specification is the response, or if we talk about especially about the pavement, it's the response on the loading condition and the environmental condition for the pavement. So, example of performance specification is, if I can say that 1 million easels passing on the road, and after that there will be no fatigue cracks, or the rut depth will be of maximum 6 millimeters. That is about the performance specification. So in Islamabad-Lahore motorway, we actually divide our performance standards into 3 types. First, for the construction performance standard, that is just after the completion of the construction of project. Second one is the O&M requirement during the operation and the maintenance period. And the third one is the handback requirement, when the concessionaire will hand over the project. So these are the 3 types we have made these performance standards. And we cover these 5 components, that is pavement including shoulders, drainage, roadside facilities, structures that includes bridges and the culverts, ancillary works like guardrails and the pavement marking. So due to the limitation of time, in this presentation we will only discuss about the first 2, pavement including shoulders and the drainage. Now I think we first talk about the construction performance standards. The first one is the International Roughness Index, that is the meters per kilometer per lane, that is the smoothness of the profile, and it should be less than 1.5 meter per kilometer per lane. Then we come to the pothole and depressions. Minimum requirement is nil after the construction of the construction phase. And about the slopes, that is the pavement and shoulder, it is because as per the approved detailed design, because in a straight section we have normally 2% on the pavement and 4% for the shoulders, but in a curved section we have a super elevation. That's why we written that as per the approved detailed design. Structural cracking, that means that fatigue cracking, which is under the repeated loads, the minimum requirements is nil. For the rutting, that is the permanent deformation, and that can be caused mainly because of 2 reasons: weak subgrade or the weak mix design. That is also the minimum requirement is nil. And then the bleeding and the raveling. Raveling is the disintegration of the asphalt and the aggregate, the minimum requirement nil. Pavement edge deformation drop, the minimum requirement is nil. So coming to the paved shoulders, there will be no reverse slope, no drop off, and width as per approved detailed design. So importantly, the New Jersey barriers, in case of overlay without milling of existing asphalt concrete, the New Jersey barrier needs to be lifted to safeguard its safe serviceability. And this is obvious that because that if we are doing overlay, then we have to lift the height of the New Jersey barrier. Skid resistance, that is also the important criteria, and we have the criteria for the sideways force coefficient routine investigation, and these coefficients mentioned in the RFP, that is 0.35 minimum. We also include the performance indicators for the drainage, that is the cross pipe, box culverts, slab culverts, and the drains, ditches, drainage structure, curb and gutter. So all drains are functional, clean, without any structural damage. That is the performance indicator for the drainage structures. Now that is also the important O&M requirement, and these performance indicators we developed first time and introduced first time in the NHA in the PPP mode project. First one is the type of asset, that is the paved lanes. Now what is the outcome? It should be smooth, safe, adequate, skid resistance and durable. So the third one is that is important, the performance based contract. What is the performance target? That the percent asset that shall be in the outcome described condition. So IRI should not be greater than 3.5 meters per kilometer per lane, especially for the O&M requirement. Because for the construction phase we need IRI of 1.5 meter per kilometer per lane, but in the O&M requirement we increase that to 3.5 meter per kilometer per lane. Now these are the tolerance criteria during operation and maintenance period. The ruts not more than 10 millimeters, no structural cracks, non-structural cracks between 2 millimeter to 6 millimeter, and no bleeding and raveling, no edge deformation greater than 100 millimeter. So little bit criteria are now you can say that not very tough. You have to allow them to basically work in the operation and maintenance period. Timeline requirement is for the pothole, because pothole can be a safety hazard, so that immediately needs to be repaired, and other distresses that within 2 days of notification. Grading surface to be given immediately within 1 day. So we also mentioned these timeline requirement in our contracts. And similarly for the paved shoulder, we also include the performance indicators, that it should be safe, smooth, and no standing of water and adequate width. Like the tolerance criteria, that no reverse slope, no edge step and no drop off, no false ditch, no scoring or formation. And timeline shall be corrected within 2 days if shoulders are deformed. Finally, when the project will be handed over back to NHA, we also prepare the performance indicators for the handback requirement, the concession area clearance, concession area, project assets shall be free from debris, surplus material or leftover construction material. And this time the international roughness index for the at the handback time is 2.5 meter per kilometer per lane. But if this project culminates between in the time of operation and maintenance period, then the IRI is 3.5 meter per kilometer per lane. The same IRI we use as in the O&M period. Potholes and like cracking and grading graveling, pavement IT formation and pavement at slope, minimum requirement is nil. So that the slope, for the slope we give the tolerance of 0.10%, and paved shoulders, no reverse slope, no covering and no drop off from hard shoulder and width as per design. So similarly for the drainage structure, as we already discussed that about the construction performance indicator requirement, we also prepare these performance indicators for the drainage. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hasan and Mr. Azim, for your very good presentation. Now we have the last presentation.